We've got Diablo abusing Nihility Collapse like it's pre-workout buff, Ciel inventing a literal infinite energy cycle inside Rimuru's body, and Velzard getting her entire authority structure torn down and rebuilt, not to mention Guy being forced to admit that Rimuru did something that Veldanava never even pulled off. This video is going to follow volume 23 of the Tensura light novel and pick up right after the chaos with Velzard's rampage, and it quietly turns into one of the most broken power scaling and lore moments in all of Tensura. I'll finish covering chapter 1 of the final volume, the new inner works of Void God Azathoth, what Diablo is doing to his own body, Velzard's new Lovecraftian ultimate skill, and Guy's new realization. This is your full lore breakdown. Chapter 1 continues with Rimuru reflecting on how far Void God Azathoth has come. After his earlier experiment in a distant, disposable world, he managed to control that terrifying negative energy to a usable degree. Because the test that was done in a far-off world, nothing catastrophic happened, even though he messed with a reality in a way that could have collapsed the main world. That experience convinced him from that moment on, he will probably rely on Azathoth as the main trump card, and he's surprisingly comfortable with that. What really shocks him though isn't his own growth but Diablo's. Diablo has gone past simply using Nihility Collapse as a ranged erasure attack. He has turned the evil energy into a strength of his own body, channeling the void through himself to boost his physical capabilities. Just hitting an enemy with Nihility Collapse is enough to erase most of the opponent before they can react, by using it as a buff even more extreme. Rimuru knows the price. It devours an absurd amount of magic heals and energy, making it unsustainable in a long fight. In his eyes, this kind of move that should be the last resort, yet Carrera opened with the Judgment Bullet as her very first attack, and Testarossa has been throwing around Nihility Collapse like any other spell. Among fighters at this level, Rimuru's caution might actually be a weird take. Diablo in particular, it's on another level of recklessness. Using Nihility Collapse to reinforce his body sounds clever at first, but in reality is suicidal. Ciel has already proposed a similar usage, which Rimuru named the secret method of cycle, or secret technique of the cycle, a high-level closed-loop energy recycling system. By manipulating space, Rimuru can create a sealed pocket that stops the energy from dispersing, so the negative energy cycles instead of flooding into the surrounding area. His slime cell's infinite regeneration lets him survive the corrosive void. They regenerate faster than the void destroys them. Diablo, however, doesn't have that slime body. He used the power of Temptation World to trick his own body into accepting a similar loop, essentially faking the condition Rimuru benefits from naturally. Under normal circumstances, this would just kill him. If Rimuru had returned even a little bit later, Diablo's body probably would have crumbled into dust, but Ciel was almost certainly managing the timing to prevent that outcome. But Rimuru is still stunned at how close Diablo came to self-destruction. Now Ciel is teaching Diablo the proper safe version of the secret technique. Rimuru tries to explain it in his own words, but he knows that he's mangling the theory, so Diablo clearly trusts Ciel's explanation more. And the two of them end up happily exchanging high-level void energy theory, while Rimuru feels like the dumb kid in the room. He jokes internally that he's jealous anyone can hold a natural conversation with Ciel. Benimaru absolutely cannot, and the only subordinate who might keep up are Testarossa and Ultima. Carrera is driven by instinct and intuition, not logic, so time drifts by in an oddly peaceful mood. They're technically still on the battlefield, but Velzard is restrained, the situation is stable, and Rimuru lets down his guard. The calm ends with Guy Crimson suddenly waking up and sits up. Rimuru, caught mentally slacking, blurts out a random excuse about not slacking at all. Guy in his female form glares at him. As a man, Guy is intimidating. As a beautiful woman, the intimidation hits Rimuru in a very different weak spot. Rimuru panics. Guy demands to know whether Rimuru understands the current situation, and Rimuru starts to dodge, but Guy cuts him off and dumps the full briefing directly into his brain via accelerated thought and compressed information transfer. Rimuru's mind is already sore from swallowing Dragonova. Having the full data stream hammered into the top of him feels like harassment, but in the end he does grasp everything instantly. The core point is very simple. Veldanava has been revived, and because of that, they need to do something about Velzard's King of Patience, Gabriel. Rimuru sees this as a sort of problem that deserves a long war council, but Guy has just handed it to him in 30 seconds and is clearly expecting results. During the last Walpurgis, Guy and the others were suspicious of Rimuru. Now he seems to have flipped from suspicion to this weird unspoken confidence that Rimuru can actually handle anything. Ciel is fully on board and motivated, so Rimuru decides there's no point in arguing. Questioning the details now would be rude. He leaves the technical side entirely to Ciel and agrees that Guy's request. Ciel immediately begins to fully analyze Velzard's condition. Information streams smoothly into Rimuru's mind. According to Rimuru, Velzard is already prepared to accept intervention both mentally and spiritually, so Ciel is effectively free to handle her authority however she likes. Rimuru gives the okay, Ciel cheerfully tells him to leave it to us, and in the next instant, Velzard disappears from the outer world. Guy panics and demands to know what Rimuru did. Rimuru, who honestly doesn't know the detailed process, asks Ciel what's happening, so Ciel replies with calmly stating that Velzard has been consumed, pulled into Rimuru's inner world for analysis and modification, and that she'll finish everything immediately. With no other option, Rimuru puts on a confident face to tell Guy to trust him. Guy still looks suspicious, which triggers Diablo. Diablo steps in, furious that Guy is doubting Rimuru, and Guy shoots back that he is not some fanatic like Diablo. Diablo responds by insulting anyone who doesn't worship Rimuru as ignorant and unenlightened. Their argument escalates fast, worried it might turn into a real fight. Rimuru steps between them and tells Ciel to show them what she's doing. Ciel projects a large water droplet into the thin air, and the slime membrane containing Vels are curled up like a sleeping child. The sigh shuts both Guy and Diablo up immediately. They stare captivated, while Rimuru again wonders why he's always the one babysitting this group. While they watch, Ciel finishes her work. She reports that the ability modification is complete. Velzard's ultimate skill, King of Patience Gabriel, and ultimate skill, King of Jealousy Leviathan, have been combined into a single new ultimate skill, King of Ice God Cthulhu. Ciel, sounding pleased, adds that she has extracted all relevant information in the process. Rimuru barely has time to react to how fast it all happened. Inside Velzard's internal world, the same event feels completely different. She feels herself gently embraced and, for the first time in her life, truly relaxed. She recognizes this is a sensation of being devoured by Rimuru, but rather than fear, it brings reassurance. She focuses inward on the two core authorities. Gabriel was granted by Veldanava, a pure law-defining authority, and Leviathan is the manifestation of her own jealousy and desire. So she tries to align and manage both, knowing full well how dangerous it is going to meddle with the law-based authority designed by her brother. These authorities form part of the world's foundation, and from her perspective, evolving Gabriel shouldn't be possible. Still wanting to meet Guy's expectation, she gives the attempt everything she has. Under her command, Leviathan begins to bite into Gabriel, trying to override and absorb it. Gabriel, however, is as solid as she feared and refuses to give away. The clash stalemates, her spiritual world frozen in a deadlock. At that point, a third presence appears. A strange voice echoes in Velzard's heart, stating that entrusting everything to it was the right call and asking for explicit permission to intervene in her authority. She's shocked when she tries to reply. No sounds come out. The scale of the presence is the unreal timing throw her off. The voice feels a bit like the language of the world that Veldanava established, but there's something fundamentally different about it. After a moment, she calms down and thinks it through. She concludes that this must be a manas, an information life born like Twilight, which once resided inside her. She's not sure if it's actually Rimuru or something attached to him. Even Guy struggled to directly reach her soul. Only entities like manas can do this kind of clean mental intrusion. She wonders if Rimuru has become something close to a wisdom core. She asks if the voice is Rimuru. If the reply is invasive, it tells her to decide that for herself and demands an answer instead. The voice is arrogant, uninterested in questions, and yet oddly soothing. Velzard decides to trust it and hands everything over. The voice then announces it will begin ability alteration. What follows is beyond Velzard's comprehension. Her soul is grabbed by something enormous. Her authorities get rewritten at a speed she can't perceive, and a torrent of information flows past that's so huge to process. Then, as suddenly as it began, it's over. The voice states that Gabriel and Leviathan have been successfully fused into King of the Ice God Cthulhu. Velzard checks her authority and immediately senses the difference. There's no friction, no lag, no contradiction. Her power responds immediately and completely to her will. This new ultimate skill is a perfect match for who she is, the strongest ice true dragon with divine authority. Energy efficient has been pushed to the absolute limit. Her already enormous magicule count can be used now with almost no waste, and the internal conflict between Gabriel and Leviathan is gone. For a moment, she honestly feels like she might have been Guy if she had this before. Even after dismissing that ego, the thought shows how huge the upgrade is. As she gets used to Cthulhu, something else hits her. The work done here outstrips even what Veldanava achieved. His authority design was supposed to be perfect, yet this new authority, crafted through Rimuru, clearly sits above it. She realizes Velgran has also reached a similar state under Rimuru's influence, and Veldra too was rebuilt by him. Rimuru's body is compatible with dragon factors. His magical volume surpasses hers, and he can even devour and rebuild divine authorities like his routine. The idea that he's just a random monster born by chance from Veldra's leaked magicules no longer makes sense. She keeps circling back to that same question. Who is Rimuru really? Feeling like she has been reborn, Velzard realizes the despair that had gripped her is gone. Veldanava has regained his power and appears to be steering the world towards destruction and reset, and until now she thought there was nothing that she could do. But after experiencing Rimuru's power directly, she realizes it might be possible to stop her brother. If she and Guy fight together, with Rimuru backing them, there may not be a single enemy they can't confront. Even even the destruction world dragon Ivarash doesn't feel like an absolute dead end anymore. For the first time, Velzard thinks that the world might be saved. Outside, Guy watches Velzard's inner transformation unfold via Rimuru's visualization and feels both impressed and uneasy. It was his idea to leave Velzard's authority to Rimuru, but watching it happen in real time is another thing entirely. His trust in Rimuru isn't blind, it's based on what he's seen. In Tempest, he's watched Veldra refine himself, Velgrind's very nature change, and now Velzard's authority be rebuilt from the ground up. In all the cases, the common factor is Rimuru. Guy knows the difference between magic and authority, manipulation better than anyone. He's seen Veldanava rewrite the laws of the world through authority, something far beyond even the most advanced magic. Guy himself can imitate and reconfigure authorities he's seen, and he's built his own technique, skill, pride, and evolved it into prideful King Lucifer through that same calculation ability. But even at his peak, he could only imitate and optimize what's already existed. He never once surpassed Veldanava's perfect framework. What Rimuru has just done is different. He has taken two separate ultimate skills with opposing natures and reborn them as a single superior authority, improving on what Veldanava defined as perfect. That belongs in the realm of the gods. Guy tries to deny it, but Velzard's change is undeniable. While he's still thinking this through, Rimuru shifts back from slime form to his human body, the membrane around Velzard dissolves, and he catches her gently as she opens her eyes. Rimuru lets Velzard go. Once he's sure that she's stable, she floats calmly, fully adapted to Cthulhu. Rimuru finally relaxes until he sees Guy smiling at him with obvious mischief. Guy speaks lightly, then immediately asks what Rimuru did. Rimuru can't explain. All the real work was done by Ciel, so he just tries to brush it off as a trade secret. Guy flatly refuses that answer. Rimuru feels cornered. Looking for backup, he glances at Velzard. Instead of gratitude, she hits him with a blunt, "Who the hell are you?" When he hesitates, she snaps, accusing him of pretending nothing is strange when everything about him is abnormal. Guy joins in, saying that he thought Rimuru was actually suspicious from the start, but held back because of Veldra. The two of them, in perfect sync, press Rimuru about his true nature. Diablo steps in again, furious at the disrespect. A three-way shouting match breaks out. Guy tells Diablo to shut up, Velzard joins in, and Diablo's devotion only fans the flames. Rimuru can see that this is going to keep going on, so they'll start throwing hands. He decided someone has to be the adult, so he changes the subject back to the actual crisis. He reminds them that this isn't the time for internal drama. They need to get to Damargandia and deal with Ivarash. If they finish this quickly, they can all go back to their elegant lives, and he can go back to chasing his slow life dream. With that in mind, he activates God's Eye Argos to check on the battlefield. Through the spell, he sees the war still in a stalemate with dangerous signs everywhere. Luminous and the others are struggling. Wanting to move immediately, Rimuru urges everyone to hurry and help. Guy and Velzard stop him. They want to decide the roles and strategy first, not only for Ivarash but also for Veldanava. Velzard repeats that clearly that Veldanava has been revived and, as of now, stands as an enemy. She explains that he ordered her to leave the Great Gate to the Heavenly Star Palace open, which allowed Ivarash to enter the Access World. His presence feels totally different from before, cold, unreachable, intending on destroying the world and remaking it. Rimuru's first instinct is to push that problem onto everyone instead of himself, but Guy isn't buying that. Velzard feels in the missing context. Veldanava, Milim's father and the creator of the world, did not just recently revive. His resurrection happened long ago, and he has been recovering strength in secret. Felwaite's efforts were basically redundant. Now that Veldanava is active and given orders that clearly align with world destruction, they have no choice but to oppose him. Even Velzard, who once revered him without question, can no longer pretend otherwise. Rimuru asks if Veldanava really lost all the power when Milim was born and what his current state might be. Velzard trembles and admits that her brother now is terrifying. She has no desire to fight him and believes that Guy would be killed if they clashed unprepared. Guy doesn't agree. He insists that he doesn't feel like he'll lose and wants to test that in a real fight. Velzard laughs nervously but doesn't argue to the point. They talk about who might side with Veldanava. Feldway is almost guaranteed to. The 7 Angels of Origin are more complicated. Besides Feldway, those still around are Dino, Pico, Gracia, Obera, and Salario. Dino and the other two just broke from Feldway, but their connection to Veldanava runs deep. Obera has pledged herself to Milim, but Veldanava's reappearance could test that. Zalario is a complete unknown. They both agree that none of the 5 can be guaranteed allies. Guy plans to show no mercy. Rimuru then asks the flip side, who can they actually count on? Velzard answers that Luminous, who wasn't directly created by Veldanava and loves the world, will probably stand with them. Milim doesn't even know her father's face, so Rimuru guesses that she'll likely choose the world and her friends over a distant parent, but he won't say absolutely. Ramidus is harmless most of the time, but if she becomes an enemy, it would be a disaster. Dino kept in the maybe category. For the true dragon dragons, Velzard is confident that Velgard and Veldora will side with the ones they love, even if the world turns on them. Ciel calmly reminds Rimuru that if Velgard ever did betray them, she can just cancel Velgard's true dragon liberation. That alone makes the dragon siblings a safe bet. Rimuru mentally extends a provisional line of trust to the Octagram and informally includes Luminous and Leon as allies. Daggeril is sealed, so he's off the board. The big unknowns remain in the Angel and Creator faction. After chewing on the same uncertainty for a while, Rimuru shrugs and says that further worrying won't help. Guy agrees there's no point in the endless war council. Diablo vows again that he will never betray Rimuru and will crush any enemy in his way. It's overkill, but at least it's firm. Just then, Velzard notices a shift on the battlefield through Argos. With Milim and the others joining the lines, humanity is finally gaining the upper hand. It's not a full turnaround, but it means their window for leisurely planning is gone. Rimuru decides that even without perfect preparation, they have to move. He doesn't want to die, and he intends to do what he can to prevent the world from ending. With that resolve, he gathers Guy, Velzard, Diablo, and the others and activates instantaneous movement. Their group vanishes from their current position and jumps straight towards the front line, closing out the chapter with all of the main players finally moving toward the decisive battlefield. And that wraps up chapter 1 of volume 23. In just a few pages, the series quietly shifts the entire power structure. Diablo pushes himself to the edge of death, experimenting with Nihility Collapse. Ciel shows she's operating on a completely different plane. Velzard gets rebuilt into something even stronger than the perfect authority her brother designed, and Guy is forced to accept that Rimuru isn't just catching up to Veldanava, he's starting to surpass him in ways no one thought possible. If you want the next breakdown as soon as it drops, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Chapter 2 of volume 23 is coming very soon.